Don't you love the pairing of those two beautiful spirits together? I love it. I love it. Oh, my goodness. One other thing that I really love about the Centers for Spiritual Living and this community is that we are a community and a philosophy, a faith, a way of life that can be included into any faith tradition, that could be included into anyone's religious preference. That we are a philosophy of faith and a way of life that is inclusive of all people, of all genders, of all types, of all socioeconomic structures, of all abilities and disabilities, of all colors and shapes and sizes and sexual preferences, that we represent inclusion. And so this month, our theme is the spirit of belonging. Because who doesn't want to belong somewhere, right? Who doesn't want to belong? And I thought it was by divine appointment that we began our Gourmets for God committee at the same time and began this signing up process at the same time, unknowingly, at the same time that we are going to be diving deep into what it means to belong, the spirit of belonging. And I think you'll see in this coming year that we as a community are going to feel closer. We are going to feel more connected. We are going to feel like we belong to one another and to ourselves. And not to call them out or anything, but about 9 or 10 years ago, I signed up for a dinner event through Gourmets for God, and I got to meet the amazing couple, Vicki and Dave, over here. And it was like, and then years and years later, we see each other, and it was like, oh, I know you. Like we belong to each other. We're like kin to each other, spiritual kin. And I loved that. I love that feeling. So thank you. Thank you. And I believe that every human being desires to belong to a community, to each other, to a family, to themselves, to the world. That we desire to have a space and a place. Even us, yes, the rugged individualists, the free thinkers and colorful life livers who do things a little bit different, right? We're a little bit different. We believe in the individuality of spirit showing up as us, and then we're all creatively different. And yet, even we too desire to belong and to be with like-minded people. I want to share a story with you that I heard about this little boy named Johnny. And Johnny was teased by the neighborhood kids badly. Time after time after time he was teased. And these kids would come up to him and they would say, "Little Johnny, do you want a dime or a nickel?" And he would always pick the nickel. And so after seeing this go on over and over and over again, this neighbor, she comes up to little Johnny and she goes, "Johnny, you are not stupid, and they are saying that you're stupid." She goes, "Do you know that even though the dime is smaller, it's more valuable, it's worth more?" And Johnny goes, and he just has this like little grin come upon him, and he goes, "Well, yeah, but if they stop teasing me, I've already made $20 so far." And so just in being in that, I thought that was hilarious when I heard it. I'm like, very smart kid. But John O'Donohue, he wrote this book called The Echoes of Belonging. I think I'm saying that wrong. It is called Eternal Echoes, and it is about the longing to belong. And he says that every human has a desire and a need to belong. And this is a belonging of an intimate connection. You know, intimacy can be held and had between more than just you and your partner. It can be had between two spirits, two people who say, "I see you." Two people who walk together in each other's in compassion, right? Walking with another in their suffering, holding that light for another when they feel nothing but darkness. This is the spirit of belonging, of being in community, of really feeling like we're a part of something greater than ourselves. And I think that's something that I love about being a part of this community, is that there is this overarching vision that is grander than anything any of us could ever possibly experience at once, that we are walking towards and moving towards a world that works for everyone. Which means, by the way, that I can live in a home and you can live in a home and we can have opposing views on everything and still meet in our front yard and shake hands and give a hug and say, I see you. And I know that you are as much of the divine, as much of spirit, as much love as I am. And that's hard to do, but that's our work here, right? That's our work here, is to be a place of peace and spirit and love in the world. Even if we feel like the black sheep of the family, even if we feel like we're the outsider or the loner. And there's this idea that we can celebrate and honor all faiths in this community, because we recognize that any faith that leads to a life where we're being of service and being compassionate and not hurting anyone is a path of right action, is a path that leads us towards our spiritual evolution, our spiritual self. And so I've been reading up on the Islamic sacred scripture of the Quran, or the Quran. Oh, I'm probably saying it wrong. And in the first chapter, I think it's like verse 125, it shares this practice that they do. And it's this practice of being heart-centered and saying, I belong to God and I shall return to God. I belong to God and I shall return to God. And I know that my kids reamed me one day because I used the word God too much, and they're like, Mom, we call it consciousness or the universe, or, so call it whatever you'd like, the divine, call it a doorknob, I don't really care. There's a power greater than we are, and we came from it and we belong to it. And it's not like, there is no duality except for our perception, right? So when we say, or when they say, I belong to God and I return to God, the returning is really a spiritual awakening or a remembering, like remembering with our spiritual self. And so I just want to invite us to do this for a minute. I want to invite us to just take an in-breath, and whatever word works for us internally, breathing in, I belong to the divine, and out breath, and I return to the divine. In breath, I belong to the universe. Out breath, and I shall return to the universe. In breath, I belong to God. Out breath, I shall return to God. That feels good, doesn't it? It is a remembering. It's a remembering that we belong to spirit. We belong to this world. I never did like that saying that we're spiritual beings having a human experience, because to me, I feel like we're spiritual beings having a spiritual experience. Everything is spiritual. What spirituality means is recognizing the divine in all things, recognizing that there is a sacredness in everything, recognizing that consciousness is the ground of all being, whether you believe in quantum physics or you read the Christian scriptures, no matter what, they come together and say the same thing. Consciousness is the ground of all being, and everything arises from that. Everything arises from that. And so being in this spirit is really what it means when we say namaste. We say, I belong to spirit and I shall return to spirit. When we say that and we see that in others, we're saying, I see you as love, I see you as light, and I see you as peace. And when you are in that place within you that recognizes that divinity, and when I'm within that place within me that recognizes that divinity, that I belong, and we meet each other in that space, that is the relationship of the divine soul to one another, to itself. And that is what it means when we say namaste. And so I want to invite us to just be a place of practice. This whole year, it's November already, so we're closing up our entire theme for the year, which is spirituality in action. Spirituality in action. And so we're not just meditating and being by yourself. We're not just affirming that our lives will get better. We're actually putting like our money where our mouth is, right? We're putting our love, our peace, our light, our truth into action into the world. And so I think that all of you should have two or three of these cards. Maybe some of you don't have them. And then if people have, there will be seats that are empty and you can get them. You don't have to get them right now if you don't want to, but I want you to keep one for yourself. And it says, you matter. You matter. And I have a little homework for us this week, okay? It might stretch us a bit. I know I'm an introvert at heart, so it would stretch me, and it will, because I'll do it too. I want you to take those other two, and I want you to just give them to somebody you meet this week. And maybe you slyly slip it into a book they're reading, or slyly, I don't know, throw it in their purse. That might be a little creepy. Maybe you just randomly give it to somebody and run away. Or maybe you become really vulnerable and really courageous, and you look at them in their eyes and you say, I see you. You matter. And you give it to them. Because when we do this, when we put this into action, what we say we believe or what we feel in our heart, that we all belong, this triggers that intention. It triggers something, right? It's like that butterfly effect. Because not only are they going to be like, wow, there are good people in this world. And they may not have known that before. But we are certainly going to feel good about it, yes? Because when we see that you matter, and you matter, and you matter, then we know that we matter. Because there is only truly one life, and it is that life of that great divine consciousness that created all things out of itself. And so I just invite us to stretch ourselves, to embrace and dive deep into this spirit of belonging. And now I'd like to invite up my husband, Reverend Michael, to share with us his experience of longing for belonging. Thank you. Love you.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Nicole. What a great word, belonging, and what a great way to look at it, though, huh? Belonging is the concept of being at the one point and longing for something else, that longing for that connection. So those of you who know me know that I'm sort of a logical-based person. And we all integrate in our life experience. And I started in my head, I think much like Ernest Holmes, the founder of Science of Mind, did. So I have to start to integrate. I have to open my heart and open my emotions up. And there's those of us in here that start with the heart. And what their integration is bringing in those teachings and the wisdom to let them know that they are in control of their lives. So those are the two paths. But I want to take the head-based path and build it up step by step. So what is it that we first long for? And in my mind, we long for that presence, that touch, that living essence of the divine inside of ourselves. And this is an interesting thing because we've had that all along. It's a birthright. We are born as the essence of the divine. The divine never says, I don't want you anymore. I have nothing to do with you. All the divine does is give us this presence of love. But it's ours to get in the way over and over and over again, to cloud that pure presence of the divine from coming and visiting us. Absolutely. So it starts with ourself. And being the logical person I am, we want to belong to a beloved partner and a beloved family group, and then this wonderful beloved community here. But our first step is getting ourselves right and being one with the divine and absolutely knowing that beyond a shadow of a doubt. So I think that's one of the things we do here that differentiates us from most every spiritual movement or religion. We pride ourselves that we teach practical spiritual tools. And the primary reason we teach those tools is so that you can have this beautiful expression and relationship with the divine every day of your life. Twice a year, Reverend Nicole and I teach a 10-week class called The Foundations of the Science of Mind. And we teach 10 principles and 10 spiritual practices that encompass everything we talk about here. We teach how to do our affirmative prayer treatment. We teach you how to pray, how to do affirmations, give you this great toolkit. But that's fine, and you can do your own spiritual practice and have your own relationship in your quiet time. But it takes more, because we got to go out in the world. There's an old Chinese proverb that goes like this: the man who expects a roast duck to fly in his mouth will be waiting a very, very long time. Don't you love those old Chinese proverbs? And the founder of the Science of Mind philosophy, Ernest Holmes, he tells us, which we teach in our classes all the time, we must treat and move our feet, meaning we do our treatment work, which is our affirmative prayer. And then we go out and step in the world. And we step in the world acting as if we believe the prayer that we just said was absolutely true in our heart, in our mind, and that's what we're going to live by. Because Ernest Holmes also said, you do not get what you want. You become who you are. So the first step is engaging and nurturing this connection, this longing you have to be connected at all times through the divine and not let yourself sabotage it. And then you have to figure out what you're going to do. What did you come here to do, at least for the next few years? And there's good news, even if you've been struggling. Hermann Hesse tells us we are not going in circles. We are going upwards. The path is a spiral. We have already climbed many steps. Powerful stuff, because whether you know it or not, your journey is progressing. And Dr. Howard Thurman tells us, stop listening to other people. Go within and find out what is yours to do. And he tells us, don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So if you have something you've been waiting to do, because you think the world doesn't need it or you're afraid to do it, maybe it's a time you should consider rethinking that and acting on your rethinking. So that brings us to this. In my mind, remember I'm bringing this from a logical step. Now, we put the oxygen mask on ourselves. We become centered. We have a good spiritual practice. Now it's time to fully go out and engage with people. Because that's the longing that we have. The next longing that we have is to engage with most of us to engage with a person, a lifetime partner, and have a family situation. And isn't it frustrating? People come to me and say, Reverend Michael, I've been doing the spiritual practices, I've been doing the affirmations, I've been doing the work, but it doesn't look as radiant and light-filled as you guys always talk about. It's really frustrating, isn't it? And my journey, I'll share with you honestly, has been like that, especially having these heartfelt relationships, which I thought that's what relationships should be. Up until the last few years, those relationships I never had. And I've done a lot of studying in my life. I've done a lot of spiritual practice in my life. And so my life was looking like that. And you could view it as when I walked, I saw darkness more than I saw light. Now I would never teach people here to view darkness, slice it away, think it's something bad, and think some evil concept or entity has thrown it in your life to challenge you. Because it's not so. Darkness is just that has been pushed aside. Normally it's within us. It's a part of our personality that we've pushed aside and not let the light see it for a long, long time. And when the light does shine on these issues and these things, a lot of times they look very grotesque. And why do they look grotesque? Not because some evil creature created them as grotesque. They've been starved for light, for love, and attention. So that's what they look like. And really, that was my situation for years and years. The other thing I tell people is never wait for your life to be perfect to pursue your spiritual path. So when I started ministerial school, my emotional life and my personal life was not very good. However, at some point in me, there was this seed that has been growing inside of me for 30 years of going and becoming a minister. It wouldn't say no. And even though, if you looked at external circumstances, a lot of people could have told me, no, you're not ready, just let things settle down. But I didn't. I went forward, and my great ministerial teachers, and we have some very good ones here, they taught us in ministerial school, especially if you're having bad days and bad times. You got to learn to compartmentalize that a little bit because you want to be there for your congregation. So if you came to see me, I wouldn't want to be in woe all the time when I was talking to you. And that works up to a degree, but what it doesn't work for is it's hard to be whole and complete when you have this unfinished business that's going on in your life and it keeps just gnawing at you. As strong as you can be in your spiritual practice, as resolute as you can be, your meditation techniques can throw them away. But there comes a time to be whole. You realize there's some things you need to change. And so I went on in ministerial school, tried to continue my faith, and made some good, hard decisions. So I made a decision to leave an extremely bad relationship, and that was the start of it. And now I wanted to redo my life. And this is sort of a story about the law of attraction. And it's good that you have two senior ministers who really bookend each other in the way we do things. So Nicole, she shared all this with you from the stage. Nicole figures out exactly what she wants to do. She's laser focused. Her spiritual path and direction, each moment is focused on exactly that. She does her affirmations. Lord knows they're all over the house. She does her visualizations. She does her visioning. And she gets what she wants. Now, I do things a little differently. So, I really believe one of the most powerful things in the universe is the mystery. So what I did is I doubled down on being an authentic person. I doubled down on my ethics. And I went to the ocean at night and sat for hours and knew that the ocean was the life experience itself, and felt the crash of the waves, the wind, and knew that I was powerful, and knew that I deserved love, and knew that this situation that I'm in of not having this love experience I've wanted for all of my life, somehow, some way, would be rectified. And I would get that divinity that's been within me all along. And then, lo and behold, Nicole comes into the picture. And she's, I think, on record of saying that 95% of the work and the law of attraction was hers. But as Ernest Holmes says, when he really doesn't know the answer, he says, that's just what I think, but who knows what the real answer is. So now I have, Lord knows I didn't think I'd be raising teenagers at my age. But I have this family that is tight-knit, this pure love. We always have each other's back. And the one thing we know is that we all love each other. And so the other Friday night, we were each able to throw a name in the hat for the movie we were going to watch. And sure enough, with my powerful consciousness, I won, and we all got to watch The Count of Monte Cristo. And Gabriel just absolutely loved it, by the way. And the other two fell asleep. So that's the journey of the experience, of that longing. And we use our spiritual principles to that. And then we get to this. The next step up is this beloved community. How powerful we are. And one of the things that we love about this beloved community, Reverend Nicole talked a little bit about that, is we love this great vision that we have together. This vision that inclusion and diversity is what we're about. This vision that there is a world that works for everyone. So I want to read to you what Pierre Teilhard de Chardin said. There is almost a sensual longing for communion with others who have a large vision. The immense fulfillment of the friendship between those engaged in furthering the evolution of consciousness has a quality impossible to describe. So we love that high and grandiose vision. But to me, that's not the glue that holds this beloved community together. The glue that holds this beloved community together is when anyone walks through that back door, they walk into a place where love and compassion absolutely rule. No questions asked. And what I mean by compassion is not when someone's having a problem, try and fix them and tell them to do that and send them to another person. What compassion is all about is sitting with that person, no matter what they're going through, and letting them know you will be there for them, they will be loved, they will be supported, and most of all, you do care about them, and someone loves them and cares about them. And no one demonstrated that more in the world than Mother Teresa. But that's the glue. And in the larger frame of things, we talk about there's always spaces in the universe we don't know what's there. Both some of the mystics and a couple of the scientists have said the glue that holds the universe together is love. So I just want you to look around for a few seconds to each other. You see a couple or three people. So did you see the love and the compassion that I'm talking about in this room right here, right now? That no matter what went on before we walked in that doors, this is the glue that's holding us together. And this is the real thing that makes this beloved community better than no ever, that I'm privileged and proud to belong to. And I hope you are also. God bless you.